Hey everyone, this is Bob. Before this episode even starts, I'm just taking out a little warning. If this is your first ever episode of Weird Tales, I suggest you try a different one, because this one is silly. This episode was recorded while me and Tis were both particularly tired, and it's like it affected us in two opposite ways. So Beef desperately tries to hold this episode together, whilst Tis is almost falling asleep to the point where you will hear Tis very seldomly, and I'm kind of going loopy and making silly jokes and kind of sabotaging the episode a lot of the time. So there's some silly jokes, some crass talk, and if you're not into that stuff, maybe try a different one. This is for the long-time Weird Tales listeners who enjoy things like weird news. So I apologise. And if you're still with us by the end of the episode, thanks for listening. Here it is. Let's talk about some giants.
Yeah, I'd imagine a giant would have a pretty big willy.
This episode's stupid.
Ridiculous!
My mind is racing.
Hello and welcome to Weird Tales and the Unexplainable. Thank you so much for joining us. We missed you. Thanks for coming back. My name's Beef A, Mr. Beef, and with me as always I've got my two best friends co-hosting. Say hello, Mr. Adam Tissy.
Hello.
And say hello, Mr. Bobby Shoy.
Smellianus.
Is smelly in German just smelly?
I actually can't remember.
Well, I didn't also know if you were just trying to say Expelliarmus.
I was, but I wanted to say Smellianus. Hi, it's Bob Shoy.
Cool, how you guys doing?
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, great.
Bobby's had a banging day at work.
It's been so good. I need Beef to liven me up and bring the energy. I'm either going to have no energy, or like, you know, when you're really exhausted, you're kind of a little bit loopy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And based on that, I just introduced myself as a Smellianus. It might be the latter. It'll be the latter until I start flagging.
You've started strong.
Well, hopefully, I don't think it's definitely not going to be a long episode, and it's not going to be a really heavy episode at all.
I like the sound of that.
Well, I've gone for something which is just a bit silly, and it's pretty light-hearted. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to, in true Tis style, I'm just going to play a little clip to see if you guys can guess what it is.
That's copyright, mate.
Yeah, well, I'll deal with it.
Is it from Zoolander?
It's not from Zoolander, and it's also not from Zoolander like 2 or whatever it was that you played it. I'm just going to play this, and let's see if you guys can guess what it is we're talking about tonight, and hopefully hear what the video is.
Down here, you great buffoon! Groppy, brought you some company. I couldn't just leave him because he's my brother. Blimey. Well, half-brother, really. He's completely harmless, just like I said. Little high-spirited is all. Robbie, that is not polite! I could do something! We talked about this. You do not grab, do you? That's your new friend, Hermione. Robbie!
Grop! Put me down! Now!
You're right.
Fine. Just needs a firm hand is all.
think you've got an admirer.
You just stay away from her, alright?
We'll leave it there.
Hearing clips of that film without any visual is really funny. Also, I can't believe I started on a Harry Potter quote.
Yes, I know.
And before we recorded, we talked about Daniel Radcliffe for about 15 minutes.
I know, I can't believe it.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
I wasn't gonna play it.
Ridiculous!
And then I thought, well, I've got to do it now because we've just spent the last 20 minutes talking about Harry Potter.
Wow.
Yeah, so any clues?
Is it about conspiracies about J.K. Rowling being a transphobe?
That's not a conspiracy, is it?
That's just a fact.
It's not about the conspiracies of J.K. Rowling being a transphobe. We are talking tonight about giants.
Wow. That's not what I was expecting.
No. No, me neither, to be honest.
That's a giant surprise.
In case you weren't too familiar with the clip, which is almost impossible to guess because there's no visual there. I can't even remember what Harry Potter film it's from. Probably fourth, fifth one.
Somewhere around the middle. Yeah.
Where we get to meet Hagrid's half brother, who is a massive giant. I do just like little Ron's crack of a voice at the end because he's trying to defend Hermione, but he's also terrified. I just love those little moments in the Harry Potter films where Ron's just
any bit of little Ron.
Yeah, exactly. Hermione is my favourite quote. Yeah, so we're gonna just. I said it was lighthearted. We're just gonna have a look at some of the myth and legend. And some of the sort of historical, cultural stuff to do with giants. And then we're going to see if we can actually unearth a little bit of evidence later on. But I'm also going to do something which I've done when I've done these types of episodes before. So I think I did it with like witches and...
You did dragons?
Yeti, dragons as well. When I've done these kind of mythical creature type episodes, I've always started off just to see what you guys can tell me, because I find, right, myths and legend, all this sort of stuff really interesting. So I'd be interested to see what you guys think of. When you think of giants, what are their like, what's their appearance? What abilities might they have? What skills or features?
They're big.
Big, yeah. Very good. Good start. Because I want to see if you guys have got the similar things that I've got, and then as we go through the myth, we'll be able to see if they've come from those myths, those ideas and perceptions we've got, or is that just...
The traditional stereotype I think of is a big, tall man or woman, big feet, and tattered robes and a club.
Yeah.
Do you remember who was the really tall guy in our year?
Greg.
That's right. I used to sit next to him in maths, and he was like so close to being officially declared a giant. He was 1 inch away from it.
He was very tall.
And I kept saying, "Come on, Greg, grow." Because I said to him that when he got there, I was going to buy him a massive club.
A loincloth.
Yeah, do you know Greg? Because it's almost bullying because he's really shy. And I was like, I'm going to buy you a big club. Make you walk around in a loincloth. Bullying.
So disrespectful.
Absolute bullying.
It is bullying, isn't it?
He was just hoping he didn't grow.
That's true bullying. And I was horrible in school. And that's the listeners' little glimpse into the horrible person I was when I was in school. But
I like that.
You know, we can all change and get better. Sorry, Greg.
I'm going to buy you a club as well. Like, go and buy you one. A club. Oh, my days. Yeah, very good. Tissy, any thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, basically what Bob said, but I guess lesser, like Neanderthal type. They're not like human intelligence. They're like Neanderthal type intelligence, which is like more primal.
Do you think of them with like a heavy brow?
Yeah.
I've got quite a heavy brow.
You do. Maybe you're a Neanderthal.
Yeah, maybe.
I can't even say that word. I can never say
Neanderthal.
that word. So I always just say caveman because I just cannot say it.
I'm a bit like a caveman.
A little bit. You're very hairy. You got a big
Hairy.
brow.
Big brow. Yeah. That's it.
There you go. And it finishes there.
Similarities stop there.
I was hoping for more.
Oh my days.
Survival skills.
I'm a great hunter.
Yeah, interesting. They were just what I did is I sat earlier and made a list. And I did this to start off because I just, like I said, I find myth and folklore really interesting. Mainly because I'm interested as to where that's come from. Like, I just find it interesting that we, as the human race, we just make up stories that all we seem to, these myths just that we can't really explain where they come from. They just seem to go back almost as far as ancient Greece in some ways.
Well, what you said on that dragons one, which we found really interesting, was how, like, there's dragons as a concept sort of appeared all over the world in all different places, but not influenced by each other. It's just like people naturally created that idea.
Yeah, exactly.
And there were slight variations, but, you know, at the end of the day, they're all very similar. And that, I guess that's kind of a lot of all these classic mythical creatures.
Yeah, it's I just find it really interesting. Like you say, it's not like you've gone abroad and heard this story somewhere. Like and giants aren't particular to one area either. They're everywhere. There's myth from all over the world.
Scandinavia.
Yeah, it tends to be more a European thing, and then North America.
Do you think of both of you, do you think of a giant as having like a certain way of talking or a certain like thing it says?
I put here one of my like features was slow speech.
Yeah, because I was thinking like, you know, me hit rock.
Yeah.
Me big giant man.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
This is just cavemen. We're talking about cavemen.
Yeah. I was just kept thinking of that Amazon woman episode of Futurama where they want Snoo Snoo.
Snoo Snoo.
Me want Snoo Snoo.
Yeah.
Ladies, please.
Oh, Matt. I love that we're still with Matt Groening, but we've moved on to Futurama references.
Yeah, that's such a good episode, though.
That is such
I've
a
been
good
going back
episode.
through them on Disney Plus over the last couple of weeks.
Futurama's all on Disney Plus now, isn't it?
I know. How amazing is that?
All series of Futurama on Disney Plus.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. I had some other things down here as well. A lack of agility, like they seem to be quite like cumbersome and quite like their limbs are heavy. Obviously they're massive, but they don't seem to be very nimble. Like, apart from the BFG, he seems to be pretty quick.
Yeah, he runs around.
Yeah, he's like leaping over 3 fields in one stride. That's mental.
Not bad for an old fella.
It's pretty good. And then, I don't know where I got this from.
Just let that slide.
Yeah, and then I also had use of clubs and boulders. Again, I think that's maybe just cavemen. I don't know where I've got that from. And then I took a slight turn and came up with cannibalistic.
Oh.
Like the big giants in the BFG, they eat children, don't they?
They have deep voices. I'm thinking of, you know, the film Big Fish with Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
He hangs out with a giant for a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And he has like a really deep voice.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. He has like a little black beard.
He's quite tall, but he's much taller in Big Fish.
Yeah, like, well, Big Fish is all about exaggerating stories, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's about
yeah.
making big fish stories. So the actor's really tall. Like, he is basically a giant, but in that film, he's like portrayed as being huge.
Yeah.
It's like when I first saw Green Mile, I was convinced that, oh my days, John Coffey. I feel terrible. I can't remember the actor's name, which is really bad.
Michael Clark Duncan.
That's it. Yeah. I was convinced he was like 9 foot tall because that's and then I remembered it's a film and they made it look like that. Anyway, so there we go. What I was going to do, so I just wanted to look first of all at, like I said earlier, bit of history. Look at some of the myths. I said earlier, giants are pretty much everywhere. Not physically, just in the myth or the legend of giants. Pretty much any country in the world, you can read some kind of legend about a giant or a race of giants. And we obviously don't have time to go into all of them. I've just picked out a couple of like my favourites, or a couple that I found quite interesting.
Is this like top 5 giants?
Well, it's actually top 3.
Is one of them Sir Tull?
No, don't think so.
No, it's an Estonian folk tale.
Oh, go on. This is where I knew that you'd probably be on your toes with.
That's the only one I know. I did an episode of Weird Tales about Sir Tull. Not Weird Tales, a 5-minute folklore. So listeners, if you want to hear a fun giant story, that was a really fun one.
Yeah. I was going to say you must have covered.
Yeah, that's the only giant myth I did, so.
Yeah. I stayed clear of like Eastern Europe, and there's quite a few, surprisingly enough, there's quite a few like giant stories from like Bulgaria, and then lots in Scandinavia, which I haven't really gone into.
Well, they have trolls as well, don't they? What's the difference between a giant and a troll?
I was going to ask you this, because I can't really tell. So from what I can see, trolls in Scandinavia, they're known as Jotun or Jotun. I'm definitely saying that wrong.
It probably might be a y.
Yeah, it could
might
be Jotun. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I knew I'd pronounce it wrong. But yeah, what do you think?
Well, I watched a film all about trolls this week, and it was really weird.
Was it Trolls?
No, it wasn't Trolls World Tour. No, I watched a Swedish film called Border, and that was all about trolls, and it was super, super weird. And I feel like trolls, if you live in Scandinavia, especially Sweden, they're just something that's, and Iceland as well, they're just something that's so like known by the people there. I don't know if we have any myths in our country where like it's just expected that everyone knows them. Because I've seen a few things with trolls now, and they never explain what trolls are, and I'm always just like, I'm lost. I don't know the rules of trollism. But
yeah,
when I've watched these Swedish films about trolls, they're always just like, they expect you to know all this weird stuff. And I lose a little bit from like cultural differences, but that film is super weird. It was incredibly unpleasant.
Oh, sounds delightful.
And it wasn't a horror film. It wasn't gory. It wasn't scary. It was just incredibly like unpleasant.
Yeah. What did you say it was called? Sorry, just
Border.
Okay. We'll go check that out. It sounds like a lovely film.
It's really weird. If you want a weird film, I watch weird films, and I was like, I actually at one point sat forward on my sofa and went, Jesus, at one of the scenes, because I was so shocked by a sex scene that happened in the middle of it. I was like, whoa.
Troll sex.
It was super weird. Like, I'll cut this, but it's fucking weird.
Oh my days.
So I didn't know what troll genitalia was like until I watched that film. And I hadn't thought about it, to be honest. But that might be the main difference, because when I think of a giant's genitalia, I just think of like a massive windsock.
Oh, what?
God. A massive
windsock.
Oh my life. That is horrific.
Like a high-vis one with a hole in it.
I imagine it's just big like they are, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd imagine a giant would have a pretty big willy.
This episode's stupid.
This is stupid. Okay, so we're not really sure about trolls. I didn't include trolls because...
No, we'll save that for when we go to Iceland.
Exactly. And,
Hell yeah.
I mean, the main reason I didn't include them is because the one thing which seems to be common through most giant myth is the size of a giant, and it's the size of their genitalia. And from what I can tell, it seems like most Scandinavian troll folklore, they're not necessarily big in stature. Trolls, they can be different sizes.
I've seen the film Troll Hunter where there's like massive ones in it. I don't know why I've watched all these troll films.
Yeah, I didn't even know there were troll films.
It's just because I watch a lot of world cinema, and when I've watched Swedish films that just have trolls in them. But there's big ones in that, but in Border they were just normal human size.
Okay, well, we'll leave trolls for now then. Maybe we can come back to them at another episode. So I'm going to dive into a little bit of Greek myth, because as far as I could see, like giants go as far back as ancient Greece, which is amazing.
Does the Cyclops count as a giant?
It does. I'm going to come to Cyclops in a second. I'm amazed. I wondered whether one of you guys would mention Cyclops at the start of the episode.
Well, when you said Greek, it just twigged with me then.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll come to Cyclops in a moment. But in terms of just general Greek mythology about giants, the giants were the children of Uranus, or the sky, and Gaia, which is the earth.
Gaia,
that's it. But they were never born, apparently. So they were like unborn children,
right,
of Uranus and Gaia.
Okay.
Which I don't really understand that. And apparently Gaia, the earth, wouldn't let them be born because they were worried that the giants would be too powerful. And so she imprisoned them in her womb. It's mental, isn't it?
Old myths are very dense.
Yeah, it's mental. It is dense.
They're just difficult to pass. You're just like, okay, I'm lost. Or as soon as you start delving, it's just like from another time. It's like we thought of stories in a different way. Yeah,
it's insane. And the thing is that I find so crazy is that someone would have been telling this story, and people listening would have gone, go on, yeah, that makes sense.
And then what happened?
Yeah. So basically, Gaia. They were never born, and that Gaia was concerned that they would be too powerful, so she imprisoned them in her womb. Eventually, though, Gaia convinced her older son Kronos to attack Uranus. No jokes, please. And then the blood that spilled from Uranus, don't laugh, no jokes, on Gaia released the giants from her womb prison.
Right.
How insane is that?
I kind of think it rules. It's pretty awesome. It sounds like real heavy metal, like the womb prison.
Yeah. It's not. It's just mental. It's just insane. I mean, it makes most Greek myth is just full of just mental picture language.
A lot of it is just a big soap opera, but then you have these crazy concepts around it, like womb prisons.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's like heavy metal soap opera.
Yeah. I like that. That's another t-shirt design. So eventually then, Gaia's older brother Kronos took power, but was overthrown by Zeus, and we know who Zeus is. Or maybe we don't know who Zeus is.
Big cheese.
He's the main one, isn't he?
He's the one who just slipped around so much and had illegitimate children everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he couldn't help himself.
Couldn't keep it in his pants.
And so eventually then the giants that had escaped from the womb prison became enraged by this and decided to take trees as clubs. We mentioned clubs.
Oh.
And they used boulders as missiles and waged war on Zeus and the other Greek gods in this crazy epic battle, which is called Gigantomachy, which is pretty mental. That's like another episode in itself.
I've never heard of that.
It's crazy. But basically, according to ancient Greeks, giants entered this crazy war with Zeus and a load of other Greek gods, and they basically ended up defeating and burying the gods under the mountains, which is where they say earthquakes and volcanoes come from. They're basically the buried gods that were buried by these giants. That whole story is crazy.
You know, these ancient civilizations who say stuff like, for example, you said, that's where earthquakes come from. Do you think they were looking for, I wonder what an earthquake is, and then they worked backwards from that?
Yeah.
And it was like that extreme. They went back so far.
Yeah, and then it feels like they went too far and just committed to it.
And they were like, where did we start again? Oh, yeah, we're just trying to work out where earthquakes came from, make up a story about that.
Like, hang on, say that. What did you say about a womb prison? Say that again. Well, we've said it now. I've written it. I've chiseled it into this rock, so we've got to go with it.
They didn't.
That's not even like chiseled into the rock. It's a bit further forward than that.
That's a lot of work to chisel that lot into a rock.
You've been watching too much Flintstones.
They would get there. They have like weird animal labour. They'd get some dinosaur to do it for them.
That's like, do you remember the Super Mario cartoon?
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's similar to that. That's like dinosaurs and like stone tablets as well.
Oh yeah. I remember that because there was a few different Mario cartoons. I remember the one that was like on Dinosaur Island, basically.
Do you remember the one where they were selling like fast food burgers?
No, I have like no recollection of any particular episode. I just remember like the general aesthetic.
That fucking episode, man. Sorry, Beef.
No, it's fine. No, I was just enjoying that because I love that you have recollection of complete episodes, and Bobby's like, yeah, I kind of remember it.
Yeah, I just remember what it looked like.
Yeah, so basically, I wanted to start with that one because it's the oldest one I could find, and also just because it's crazy. I mean, like, and I don't know how they wouldn't have. Surely they wouldn't have to even explain where giants came from, would they? Because
I feel like they really don't. When they're just like, yeah, they're unborn. Were they unborn?
So they're unborn children of Uranus and Gaia.
Yeah. I can't get my head around it. I'm just like, I don't really know what that means.
You know what's also interesting is there seems to be a link between... So Uranus is known as a frost giant. Apparently it's really cold on Uranus. So many jokes that we're gonna have to skim over.
I'm not. Me and Tiss aren't even acknowledging them, but if that's all you,
we're not biting on this one.
You're trying to get a rise out of us.
I just keep looking at your faces, and that's enough. Like, don't know. Anyway, I've completely lost track of what I say now because I stumbled over my own
anus.
Yeah, my anus. So that's Greek myth.
Uranus.
Bobby, you mentioned Cyclops.
Yeah.
What do you know about Cyclops?
He's got one eye.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big guy.
Yeah.
Strong.
Yeah. Classic giant tropes.
Yeah, just a big giant with one eye.
Yeah.
I can't remember like the story, but I don't know. I just remember what he looks like. But I know I've seen like a classic depiction of a Cyclops story before, but I don't know.
Well, I've got a video here which I can hopefully use to jog your memory.
Is it from Jason and the Argonauts?
It's not. It's from our good friends over at the History Channel.
All right.
So we know this is all legit, 100% confirmed stuff. Here we go.
On a typical fall day in the Midwest, farmhands make a find that is anything but ordinary. An enormous skull with what looks like a single sizable eye socket right in the middle of the forehead.
Right, so I'm going to pause here and show you this picture.
What, is this something they actually found?
This is what they actually found.
When?
Well, I don't know. We'll come to
Recently,
that in a second,
though.
I think. Recently. Yeah, not years ago. This was like recent. I don't know if you can...
I can see that. It looks like a dinosaur skull.
Yeah.
Tis, what does that look like to you? Like a dinosaur, right?
That middle circle, is that must be his nostril, right?
Well...
No, that's the one eye socket.
Well, is this the Cyclops we're talking about? A giant Cyclops.
Yeah. Well, they found a Cyclops skull.
Apparently.
That eye size doesn't look very efficient, though. How would it roll in that socket? It's like a cylinder.
Well, it looks like it's got the heavy brow, right? Look, it's quite heavy at the top.
Yeah. Sometimes when you see cartoons of Cyclops, they have like a more cylindrical eye, though.
Yeah. Well, anyway...
I don't see how they would roll. You're right there, Tis.
Mm.
The ancient Greeks collected fossils like these and believed they told a story about massive monsters.
The skeleton looked sort of human-like, only much bigger and a little stranger. Next thing you know, bada boom, bada bing, bada bam, you have a Cyclops.
The Cyclops were ferocious and huge man-eating giants that only had one great eye in the center of their forehead.
But is it possible these freaks of nature actually existed?
There's a very rare genetic defect known as cyclocephalia. The orbital eye sockets merge and form one great eye. Now, typically these aberrations are stillborn.
But that doesn't explain the discovery of fossils like this one. It's at least 3 million years old and belonged to an immense creature standing 9 feet tall and weighing 6 tons. To ancient Greeks, bones like these prove the Cyclops were real.
Since they didn't know what dinosaurs looked like or what other creatures looked like, they would assemble them to look like men. The rib cages would be put together, and these would be very, very big creatures.
Scientists today have another explanation: elephant skulls.
They possess a giant cavity in the center that represents the nasal cavity. And this could have been interpreted as an eye socket. So it's not hard to imagine how people discovering these ancient elephant skulls created or conceived this Cyclops-like, human-like giant.
That noise is...
As soon as he said elephant skull, I was like, yeah, that's what it looks like. I felt like I'd seen that before.
Yeah.
When the guy before that was talking, he was just like, as if it was fact. He's like, yeah, Cyclops were these giant guys that walked around like terrorizing things. What does he think that's real? Did he actually believe it?
I think he does, and I don't think anyone's had the heart to tell him.
He just thinks because he saw it in a cartoon, it was like everything he has like a thing
well,
where everything he sees must be depicting fact.
It must be Cyclops. Yeah.
Did you know there was a blue hedgehog that could talk and eat chili dogs? Amazing.
Is that Sonic? Does Sonic eat chili dogs?
Yeah.
Is this in the new movie?
I remember the Sonic cartoons really well.
Oh.
No, that's in the old cartoons.
But we're talking about Mario and Sonic old cartoons today. That's mad.
Yeah.
And the Flintstones.
We've referenced some vintage stuff today.
I mean, all we need to do is fit in, like, the Jetsons and any other Hanna-Barbera cartoons we could think of.
Did you ever see the really old Legend of Zelda cartoons? Because they are fucking bonkers.
Oh, I don't think I have.
He's like, it's like medieval looking, but then he's got like a real fucking shitty attitude all the time. He's like,
Well, excuse me, princess.
that's his catchphrase. It's like Sonic the Hedgehog's personality got pushed into Link. They're really fucking weird cartoons.
Yeah. I mean, they sound mental.
Yeah, not worth watching.
But I do feel like cartoons in the early 90s, early to mid 90s were just... Like, Cartoon Network 20 years ago was insane. Like Ren and Stimpy, Cow and Chicken.
Oh yeah, nuts.
All that stuff is crazy.
It's like the birth of like the outrageous, like absurdist meme humor that exists now. It was like all people that grew up with that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, elephant skulls. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's what it looks like, right?
I don't think there was actually Cyclops running around terrorizing villages and.
No.
Nah.
No, I don't think so. But the guy at the beginning of the video, like you said, he seemed to think that maybe there was.
But the thing is, had these guys never seen a real elephant before?
They must have done. That's what I was thinking. They must have seen a skull.
They found a skull that was 3 million years old and was like, wow, Cyclops. Were they not just like, oh, it's an elephant skull?
Yeah. Or a mammoth, maybe, as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, elephant, a breed of elephant, I guess.
Yeah, yeah I just don't... They must have... But instead, they went straight to Cyclops. Definitely Cyclops. So Greek myth... usually... Like, I managed to look through it. There seems to be quite a few myths about Cyclops or different types of Cyclops. But usually they're said to live on the island of Sicily in the Mediterranean. But quite significantly, that island was once home to ancient elephants. And obviously their fossilized skulls and bones, they can still be found today. But when they used to find them, didn't really know what they were. And so cooked up these stories of giants. So basically, as far back as the 1370s, I think I've got written here, scholars have suggested that they would have mistaken the large hole in the centre of the skull to be an eye socket.
Maybe we should do a Weird Tales trip to Sicily and investigate for ourselves.
And just check it out, exactly.
Yeah, I think just as an excuse to go and chill out in Sicily.
Yeah.
I'm down for that.
I mean, I'm down for just leaving, being not in the UK for a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Just anywhere but here. So we need to go to Iceland, now Sicily.
Yeah, we'll do a Weird Tales World Tour.
Amazing. And if you want to fund that, details will be at the end of the episode. Yeah, exactly. People would fund it, probably.
Not enough to get us at a world tour. We might get to we could probably get to the Paris catacombs or something.
Yeah. My mum would probably give us a tenner.
There we go. We're part of the way there.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've got some money in the kitty anyway, advertising money and stuff. But yeah, maybe when all this clears up, when all this crazy world sorts itself out, maybe we'll start a Kickstarter for us to go somewhere. Pay for a holiday so you can listen to one special episode of the podcast.
I couldn't think of a better excuse to leave the country apart from COVID and just wanting to get away from pretty much everyone that lives in this country right now than to go looking for giants in Sicily. I'm going to come on to... so we looked at Cyclops. We've looked briefly at Greek myth just because it hurt my brain. The Greek myth stuff after a while because it's just so insane. Now, the third one I want to look at is Goliath.
Oh.
From the Bible.
It's just like the story of David and Goliath, only this time David won.
Yeah.
I know, I heard it too.
Where's is that from something and I've just missed
from The
that?
Simpsons.
Oh, right, okay.
When Homer's taken on it's the one with the trash commissioner, I think, when he's taken on the trash commissioner.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
This is a very, very proud day for us, especially me, your father. Me beat City Hall. It's just like David and Goliath, only this time David won.
Oh, I know. I heard it too. Here's some music.
That's class.
Okay, so Goliath is a Gittite.
A what?
Is a Gittite. He is he is the most well-known giant in the Bible. The Bible actually references giants about 3 times.
I was going to say, how many giants are in the Bible?
Well, they seem to crop up 3 times from what I can find in the Old Testament.
That's interesting.
They are actually referred to as Nephilim.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. But I'm not going to talk about them too much because actually there's so much dispute as to who the Nephilim were and what that actually means, right from the very bonkers, i.e. the Nephilim were fallen angels that mated with women on Earth and then created these giants. So that was the Nephilim, that they were these giant men.
I'm thinking of, I played the video game Diablo 3 a little while ago, and in that you're always referred to as Nephilim. Come, Nephilim. That's where I'm recognising the word from.
Okay. Yeah, that's not the context I was referring to here.
No.
But he is described as... how well do you guys know the story of David and Goliath? Like, well enough?
Pretty well.
Go on, Tis, give us a little rundown.
David was a shepherd?
Yeah, correct.
Oh, was he the son of the king? No. That's... What was Goliath then? Goliath was maybe the king, royal something.
So Goliath was a Philistine, and he's described as a champion.
We got like a little taste of Tiss's Bible stories again then. That was so popular a while back.
Yeah, I like that. I like that you remembered that David was a shepherd.
I was waiting for Herod's hat to come back into it.
Yeah.
A very hazy memory of a story I heard when I was under 10 years old.
Well, I think of David and Goliath, I think of the Simpsons episode with Nelson and where they did the Simpsons Bible stories.
Oh, right, yeah. Okay. Which, to be fair, are pretty... Whilst tenuous, they're pretty bang on. There's not really...
Yeah, I can't remember. They did Garden of Eden, David and Goliath, and I can't remember the other one.
That's it. Okay, so let me just play this then, and it might jog your memory a bit.
He was going from being a kid to being a warrior in that moment.
He just bent over and he picked up 5 smooth stones. And these he put in his pouch. And he picked up his sling and he walked towards Goliath. And Goliath sees him and he goes, "What?"
It was insulting, actually, to send. Well, what are you sending this young, unarmed, unprotected guy against me?
The Philistine curses David and vows to feed the Israelites flesh to the birds and the wild animals. Smack talking is one of his fatal mistakes.
Never brag in a fight. That is one of the basic rules of fighting. David was listening and saying, okay, this guy's talking trash, and as soon as he makes a move, I want to put him down. And that's exactly what he did. You can get a stone of a quarter pound, and a sling can hurl that at a couple of 100 miles an hour. It's like a whip. You know, when you crack a whip, you hear that sound. That's because the tip of the whip is going faster than the speed of sound. It's a sonic boom. It's breaking the sound barrier.
Wow.
That stone can hit with a great degree of speed and a great amount of force.
According to the legend, all it takes to fell the giant is one shot. But for Goliath, the worst is yet to come.
He kills him with his own sword to add insult to injury. Then finds his family and kills them. You know, David is seen as kind of this writing poetry and playing the flute or something. This guy was a killer.
And we'll leave it there. So, David was a shepherd, like you said, Tiss, but actually, so which we get this idea then that he's this small, meek, mild kid who's not really, not too strong, not too powerful. But if you read the story in the book of Samuel, like this guy is fighting off wolves, bears, like any predators that are coming to eat the sheep, he's having to then fight off. And seems to have got pretty nifty on the old sling. And he agrees to fight Goliath, whose height, by the way, so the size of Goliath.
He actually has his vital statistics in the Bible.
It says, so it says in Samuel 17:4 that he was 6 cubits and a span, which is about 9 foot.
Right, okay. I was going to say that means nothing to me.
Yeah. 9 foot, though.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty tall.
Yeah, 9 foot's pretty big.
A sling is like not like a slingshot, is it? It's like a wet nappy with a ball in it.
Yeah, kind of, except I don't think it's wet.
It's like a lever, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you let go of it and it swings.
You swing it around and then throw the dirty contents.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it wouldn't have been like Bart Simpson with a slingshot. No, a sling. And so I think...
Don't see many slings around nowadays.
No, I guess not. Well, apparently because they're quite a dangerous weapon.
Mm.
They can fire half a pound of stone at 200 miles an hour, apparently. It's that's quite quick, isn't it? But Goliath actually came from a family of giants, it says.
I bet they were well upset.
Well,
what happened to him?
Well, no, because David killed them all, so...
he killed them all?
Yeah. Goes and just,
Bloodlust.
Yeah.
He had a taste. And
they loved it, though. They loved death in biblical times. In the Old Testament
I thought you meant
times...
the giants.
Oh, the giants. Well,
they bloody love dying.
Well, the giants, they're pretty aggressive, pretty ferocious. He said he was going to feed David's flesh to his family.
What, he just like kicked in their front door and was like, you're going down as well?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I guess so.
My image is he kills Goliath in combat, and then he just rushes down to Goliath's house, kicks in the front door. Mrs. Goliath's like stirring a pot on the counter. And he just fucking cracks him.
Well, but not before cutting off Goliath's head as well. He cuts off his head.
Why?
Just for a laugh, I guess. Don't know. Just to make sure he was dead. I don't know.
Power move.
Yeah, with his own sword. So he
Oh yeah, insult to injury.
And then I think he picks up his head almost like, come on then.
His head must have been massive as well.
Yeah, exactly. 9 foot as well. So his head would have been pretty big. But that was almost like...
He should have cut off his nuts and then put them in his sleeve.
And killed his family with them.
His nuts.
God. At the beginning of the episode, you said it's going to be the latter.
Yeah, I'm going to cut that. That's the limit. That's too silly.
With his nut sling over his head.
Nut sling.
Anyway.
Oh dear. Right.
So that's the story of David and Goliath. One thing that I was actually amazed to find online was that someone had actually done a paper suggesting that Goliath suffered from a pituitary gland dysfunction, so that there could have been like a tumour already pressing on his brain or pressing on the edge of his skull, and then the impact from the rock would just finished him off.
But if you hit someone with a rock going that quick, if it hit him in like the temple,
you would be dead.
I would say that would do it anyway.
Probably.
Pituitary gland or not.
Yeah, exactly. I think that just explains his size and his stature. Maybe that if he's got a dysfunction in his pituitary gland, then that will. I think that means that if you have a dysfunction in that way, you don't stop growing. So maybe that was Greg's. So
he would never stop growing.
Imagine that. Imagine never stop growing.
That's a really scary idea.
Yeah, it's pretty mental. So they were like my 3 stories that I just wanted to glance over.
What about the Norse realm of Jotunheim?
This is when I was gonna, before we go on to any evidence that I might have, because there's going to be so much evidence for giants. I wanted to ask you guys if you knew any other. So yeah, tell us a bit more about Norse giantology.
Isn't there? I'm not that great on Norse mythology. It's so dense, and I purposely never delved into it on 5 Minute Folklore because it's just so dense. It's like its own podcast to delve through that stuff, and there are Norse mythology podcasts. So, but from my base knowledge, there's like the 9 realms, Earth being one of them, among others, and one of them is Jotunheim, and Jotunheim is like the realm, planet or whatever that the giants all live on.
Right.
I don't know if that's different because I get confused with different things. So there's one that has the frost giants. I don't know if that's Jotunheim or if that's a different realm that also has giants. That's where I get confused.
I think, no, Jotunheim is, because that's like Thor, isn't it? That's basically like Thor to...
Thor is from Asgard.
Yeah, from Asgard. Yeah. But I swear he goes to Jotunheim, or that's one of the realms that.
Well, Loki. We're talking Marvel mythology now, rather than normal mythology. Loki's real parents are frost giants.
Yeah. But that's what they would have got that from Norse mythology. Is what I'm.
I'm also thinking of God of War, like the video games, like the newest video game. You go to like Jotunheim briefly and stuff. So.
Oh right.
And because in that game you travel between the different realms.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what's really cool about that game. Like, it's really cool that you go between the different realms and get to do different things.
It's the one game series that I've not really gone into.
I would say just play the new one. The new one's really good, and it kind of resets. It does a good thing of like resetting the series and continuing it at the same time. Like, he's basically on the run from murdering all the Greek gods, so is hiding in the realm of the Norse gods, and they sort of go, "You don't belong here." And his cover's blown, and it's going to be a new trilogy now. So the old trilogy was the Greek gods, and now it's going to be like the Norse god trilogy. So you can just jump on and just know that he's on the run because he killed all the Greek gods.
Oh, right.
But that new game's pretty good.
Okay. It did look pretty good. I just feel like I'd always miss the boat with them. But
yeah, no, the story's really good, actually. It's a little bit like the first Last of Us because it's you and a young kid that you're like traveling with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'll probably love it then.
Yeah, it's really good. And it's a really good balance of like kind of open world and kind of linear story driven. It does that probably better than I've seen in other games.
Okay. Big shout out to God of War there.
Yeah, advertising God of War.
So Tis, have you got, are there any that come to mind or any myths that I might have missed?
No, I can't think of any others.
No.
But any pop culture references, like BFG.
Yeah.
Green Giant.
Green Giant. Okay, so we'll move on.
I'm just trying to think if I can think of any more.
There are loads.
I'm sure there are.
There's more biblical stuff as well. I just haven't, like I say, I haven't got the time to go into it, But Norse, this is why I purposely sidestepped Norse mythology, because the giant stuff there is so mental.
Yeah.
And it just would have taken too long to go into it, like you said.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's why I never covered Norse stuff on 5 minutes. It's just so dense. It's why, as much as I love the idea of delving into Indian mythology, that is so dense.
Forget it. Hindu mythology is crazy as well.
Yeah, it's awesome, but it's just like I can't. The whole point of that podcast is I try and sum up stories in 5 minutes. I literally could not sum up an Indian and folklore story in 5 minutes.
No, no, not at all. I would highly recommend, though, if any of our listeners are even mildly interested in this kind of stuff, go and check out mythology on giants. There's tons of stuff out there from almost every country, every continent in the world. Just go and check them out. Particularly if you might be thinking of one that I've missed and it's your particular favourite. I don't know. Maybe that's the case.
Have you got a favourite giant beef? BFG.
I'd probably go to like a famous pop culture reference, like Tis said, and I almost don't want to. I mean,
you don't want to pick an obvious one.
For me, it's got to be the BFG, innit? I think, because I'm, big Roald Dahl fan, and I think it was probably the first Roald Dahl book I've read as well, if I'm trying to remember.
Rude though, innit? He does blow-offs in that book.
He does do blow-offs, yeah. Isn't that what gives him, propels him up into the sky to get to the earth, innit?
Yeah. Did you ever watch the film, the Steven Spielberg one?
I did.
Mark Rylance.
Mark Rylance, yeah.
Yeah. I can't see Mark Rylance now without thinking about how he doesn't believe Shakespeare was real.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, since we looked at him on Fakespeare.
He wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. Mark Rylance on the right side of history.
Exactly, for once, yeah. I don't know what that means, because he's probably always on the right side of history, I suppose. I don't know. I really have a soft spot for the 80s cartoon one. Have you seen that with David Jason playing the BFG?
Yeah, that's the one I always loved when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just fun hearing David Jason talking about Whiz Pops
and Snoz Bangers or whatever they're called. Snoo Snoo.
Oh, I don't want to hear David Jason talk about Snoo Snoo.
No, nothing worse.
Want the high-stakes stuff? The believe the hype stuff? The criminally good, emotional roller coaster, can't believe what you're seeing stuff? You know, the good stuff. AMC Plus has it all. Can't wait for the beginning of the end? Watch all new episodes of The Walking Dead 1 week early. Want to be chilled to the core? Set sail with The North Water, a thrilling Arctic drama starring Jack O'Connell and Colin Farrell. Plus, uncover gripping true crime content ad-free and on demand. Expect the epic with AMC Plus. Sign up today at amcplus.com. AMC Plus, only the good stuff.
So what I wanted to do, because it's all very good talking about myth, is I want to look to see if there's any evidence. Is there any concrete proof that a giant such as Goliath, because there's tall people around, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, there's basketball players that are 7 foot.
But also something like the Bible, which is stories from the people. It's almost like when someone tells you something that happened, and then they tell someone, then they tell someone. Something like the Bible could be very word of mouth tales, and then it could have started off as just a tall, strong guy, and then fish stories, big fish.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to check this out. I thought maybe we're not going to find evidence of giants that were 15 foot and, absolutely ginormous fossils. But could we at least, because like I say, there are basketball players that are 7 foot. There are some very tall people out there. But if we took Goliath size, so 9 foot, is there evidence of anyone out there at all that even came close to that? Because that's 2 foot. That's pretty tall. That's massive.
You'd have to eat a lot. I'm thinking of really tall basketball players. They must have to eat loads to be that energetic as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, what's it for a man? It's 2,500 calories a day, isn't it, for a typical man?
Yeah, something like that.
So that it must be double that, I suppose. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they're so athletic all the time, and they're that much body to fill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that much body to fill, and then to have energy on top of the body to fill. That's pretty crazy. Well, the short answer to that is yes.
Well, the tall answer.
The tall answer to that question is yes. Have you guys heard of Robert Wadlow?
No.
Neither did I. Robert Wadlow is still, according to the Guinness World Records, still the tallest man that ever lived, or the tallest person that has ever lived. When they last measured him on the 27th of June 1940, so he's...
Oh, okay, so it's a way back, yeah.
Long since been dead, but actually not too long ago, so the Guinness World Records have got an actual record of this guy. When they measured him in 1940, he was American, by the way.
I was going to say, where was he from?
He measured 2.7 meters, which is 8'11".
Whoa.
Which is pretty much the 9 foot that Goliath is said to have been.
Wow.
That's mental, right? 8'11".
That is... I'm actually really flabbergasted. When you said, the tallest man that ever lived, I didn't think he'd be that tall.
No, I was maybe thinking pushing 8 foot, but pushing 9 foot is...
Yeah, that's shocking.
Unreal.
And when was this?
In 1940 was the last time he was measured.
Was he in the war?
I feel like it'd be a bit of a giveaway, right?
trying to hide in the trench.
Robert, get down. I am. I'm already on my knees. Like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, talk about like an obvious target.
Oh dear.
Can you imagine him like lumbering out of the trench? All the enemy would like turn around and start running and screaming. They should put a club in his hand and make him chase them.
Oh my days. Keep growing, Robert.
With the club.
You're nearly there. We bought you a club. Oh man.
I hope no like really tall people are offended by this club talk. I'm just being silly.
I mean, I tried to visualize what 9 foot looks like, and so I took a picture. I measured it out in my living room. I took a picture, which I'm now pretty sure isn't really going to convey it when I show it to you guys. And my cat Figaro is rather unhelpfully like laying on the laying at the top, but you could kind of make out the measuring tape.
Actually, it's useful to have the cat there because it's almost like
it gives a bit
something
like a
to
frame of
compare it
reference.
to. Yeah, that's pretty massive.
That's tall, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't. He wouldn't fit on my sofa.
That's the least of his troubles.
There is a picture in. He couldn't get shoes.
They put that on the in the Guinness World Record book.
Yeah.
World's tallest man couldn't even fit on Beef's sofa.
Couldn't even fit on. And my sofa's long. But Robert Wadlow could not fit on my sofa. But yeah, just imagine that. That's nuts. This also blew my mind. So he apparently was born, and his parents, you know, he was recorded as being normal in size and everything else. Everything was normal. But then he very, very quickly began to grow. He was 5'4" by the age of 5.
Oh my goodness.
5'4".
That's crazy.
I think I'm quite sure. I'm shorter than both you guys. I think I'm 5'8".
I'm 5'8", I think, Beef.
Oh, so maybe I'm shorter. So maybe like
I would have said that we're about the same height, to be honest.
Oh, maybe.
I might be 5'9". Either way, me and Beef are not very tall.
Could you imagine 4 inches shorter than us then? This 5-year-old. That would be terrifying. A 5'4" like 5-year-old.
That would be terrifying.
It would be really scary. And wearing clothes intended for teenagers.
He must have been so self-conscious at school.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been really tough, wouldn't it? I didn't get to see whether he was...
He probably had some idiot sat next to him in math saying he was going to buy the club or something, making it even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. But anyway, so his abnormal height and size, like if you go and you can still find his details on the Guinness World Records website, and he is a giant. Like his head, his hands, his limbs, he is just a very, very big man. And doctors examined him, and basically his exceptional, enormous size was caused by a hyperplasia of his pituitary gland.
Oh, okay.
So I think this is where that guy that wrote a paper about Goliath maybe suggested, maybe that could have been... which basically that condition causes your body to just basically continue producing the growth hormone. And because it was in the 1940s, they were never able to give him any treatment to stop his growth, which to my reckoning, anyway, from what I can make out, they can now do that. There's now treatment people can do to stop your body producing this growth hormone.
So if you're really tall, you can say, "Can you stop making me grow?"
Yeah, I guess if they found out that you've got this hyperplasia again, they'd be like, "Mate, I don't want to be. Bobby keeps picking on me in maths." And, but we talked about calories. I found this really interesting. He consumed 8,000 calories a day.
Wow.
Which is...
I mean, it would be quite fun to be like, I've got to eat 8,000 calories a day. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I think I'd get really sick of eating that much really quick.
Yeah, so would I.
What's that in perspective?
Although the average, like people said, the average amount that a man normally would have to eat in a day is like between 2,000 and 2,500, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So it's nearly like 4 times what an average man would eat in a day.
How many calories in a Big Mac?
A lot. I think a Big Mac is like almost what you need in a day, to be honest.
Let's have a look.
So, how many Big Macs could this guy have?
Calories in a Big Mac. Oh, it's not as much as you think. 200.
What is it?
That can't be right.
That's
257.
No, it's no.
That's not right. How many calories are in a Big Mac? In a combo meal. So if you were to get a Big Mac with a medium drink and medium fries, that's 1,080.
Is that
so he could eat 8
of them?
Eight
Big Mac meals
a day.
That's mental. Oh, that's more like it. 550 calories in a Big Mac.
Right.
That's still, though, to put that in perspective, I saw a sandwich in Tesco's earlier that was 700 calories.
Some of them sandwiches in Tesco's, I can't believe what's going on.
Yeah, no.
I'm like, how are you getting that many? It's almost like they're like scientific geniuses for getting that many calories in such a small portion of food.
Into a little triangle.
Yeah, it'll be like a little sandwich. I'll be like, what's a cheese sandwich? How bad can that be? And it's like, this is like 3 Big Macs. How have they done it?
Yeah, it's mental.
This is scientifically impossible.
It's like when Homer's a food critic and they're pumping into that. Is it an eclair?
Oh yeah, the big eclair. Yeah,
like in the Tesco's manufacturer, they just like pumping loads of fat into the bread. Like I don't know what else they're doing.
I don't know how they're doing it. It's the dressing and stuff, because the salads and that are really bad because they're covered in that dressing.
I could never make a sandwich unless it was like a chocolate spread sandwich. And it was 4 chocolate spread sandwiches. I could never make a sandwich that calorific.
I don't know how they're doing it.
Even because I picked up a BLT, I was like, oh, that can't be too bad. It's just bacon and bread. Like, how is it 700 calories?
Yeah, that makes no sense.
I don't understand.
No.
I couldn't tell you. Even on the green, when I was looking at the back, I was like, no, I still don't know what it is. I don't understand. Tesco's are hiding.
I don't know what mayonnaise they're using.
No. But anyway, so that's Robert Wadlow. So he had gigantism, which is like, you guys probably familiar with what that is. And so because of that, I would say it's quite plausible that even though it's just a Bible story, 9 foot isn't out of the realms of impossibility. Or possibility, sorry. It's not that crazy to think he could have actually been that tall.
I feel like 9 foot could work if, like, with people slightly exaggerating it.
Yeah, they do think that it's the one thing actually that scholars struggle with the most. It's because the terms of measurement are so different.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. Like, they're not sitting there with a tape measure and saying, right, okay, Goliath, just put you back to the wall. Yeah. They've got like a bit of chalk.
No, stand up straight.
No.
They would have been someone watching it thinking, yeah, he must be like 5 cubits. That's massive.
Mm. How big's a cubit? Why don't we use cubits anymore?
I don't know. I quite like cubit.
I like the sound of it. I like it. Just so old timey about it. I like the idea of like just saying how many cubits something is. Just sounds quite nice to me.
So Goliath was apparently 6 cubits and a span. So is a span like a bit? I think a span is like a bit and a span. 6 cubits though.
Yeah, accurate measurements. Next time I have to measure a wall at work for if I'm getting paid per meter, I sometimes get paid per square meter. I might send in my bill in cubits.
Yeah, you should and just and tell them, that's 13 cubits. And they go, what? What do you mean? Just pretend like they're mental. Yeah. So Robert Wadlow, bless him. In the end, I think,
bless him.
From what I remember, he died of just an infection as well. But obviously, being that size, everything is just way more complicated. So we're going to look a bit more at Bones, because I thought that if there's any evidence we can actually find, it's going to be fossils. It's going to be some kind of fossilized remains,
like an elephant skull.
Like an elephant skull. So I thought, are there any more? Are there any? And I thought maybe because I'd read that in quite a lot of myth, and I didn't include it early, but in quite a lot of myth, it carries across that giants had two jaws, so two sets of teeth to help them munch through human flesh.
What, one behind the other?
Yeah, just
Like
almost
a
like
shark?
a doubling up of, almost like a shark. Yeah. So I thought he must be able to find some teeth. And you'll be grateful to know that I managed to find exactly that.
I thought you might, otherwise you wouldn't have mentioned it.
Meanwhile, back in Puckett's cave, Bill and Brad have come upon their 4th hour of scouring for clues.
We could find any physical evidence. That's really what we're looking for. Something that we can have DNA tested or carbon dated, see what was happening with this human that was 8 foot tall.
Actually, a neat little cavern under here.
By the way, that beeping is they're using what I can only describe as a tooth metal detector across the soil.
Okay.
Brad, check this out. So we're going up and down the north wall. I'm pushing aside leaves. And out of the corner of my eye, I see something white. What'd you find? Look. We take a closer look at this thing. We're dumbstruck. It's a tooth.
I'm gonna show you what they found now.
Okay.
Because I would like to see what you... And I mean, it is a bit annoying because you're probably not going to be able to see it that clearly, but I'm just curious to see what you think. Can you see that little, white triangle...
Yeah.
Cone-shaped? Would you say that was a tooth?
Not a human tooth.
No. What about you, Tiss? Human?
No.
It's like a dog tooth.
Yeah, right? Doesn't look very... It's not like a big molar, is it?
No, it's a fang.
Right, but these guys... oh, by the way, I should have mentioned that you can catch these clips in a series on the History Channel called The Lost Giants Season 1. So these guys are looking for the land of the giants, and they're looking for a tooth, and they found, luckily... it's not
quite as extreme, but it has some of the same energy as that Alaska Monsters guys. Where they're hey, come over here quick!
Yeah, this is exactly why I played it, because this is just funny. I just love this. Yeah. I love the History Channel.
It's huge. It's a big one. So Brad and I are going back and forth speculating about what it might be. Could it be a bear tooth? Doesn't seem sharp enough. A deer? A cow? We're 70 feet up in a shelter cave. Kind of looks human to me. That would be one big human. Brad and I are looking at each other, and we think what it looks like a human incisor. My mind is racing. I'm thinking about all these accounts we have. Giant skulls, massive jawbones, double rows of teeth. If this thing is an ancient giant tooth, we might have just hit the jackpot. It could change the game.
My mind is racing.
My mind is racing. It looks like a human incisor.
It doesn't.
So he thinks they look like your fangs, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but our fangs, even the most fangy, I've got fairly fangy fangs, and they're not as sharp as, for listeners, the image that Beef just showed us, looked like a proper fang, an animal fang.
Yeah. And it's not that, is it?
No.
So are we saying that's rubs?
Oh, 100% anti-strat.
Anti-strat. Totally anti-strat. Tiss?
Yeah.
We're anti-stratting that. I did watch the whole episode though.
Did you?
Yeah.
Fair play. Good on you.
It was funny. It's just those two guys apparently flabbergasted at every move.
Their mind is racing all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. So go give it a watch if you want to. It's on YouTube.
What was the series called?
The Land of the Giants, or The Lost Land of the Giants, I think. The Lost Giants. If you don't want to watch the whole episode, YouTube does break it down into 6 videos, which is almost like YouTube's way of going, don't watch the whole thing.
Well, I always put the links to the video clips in the show notes underneath the podcast.
So you can check that out if you really want to.
So they can click on that if they want.
So we've got 2 more to look at, and I'll just try to look through them quickly because I think we're probably, what are we on? Probably like an hour and 15.
Hour 10.
Hour 10. Oh, okay. So we've got a bit more time.
Hour 15, hour 10.
Yeah, okay.
Depending on how much I cut. And although we've been silly, I probably won't cut much.
No, exactly. So I just want to look at the next one. The next one is the Giant of Castelnau. I'm definitely not saying that correctly, so I'll spell it out. It's Castelnau.
Oh.
Is it Castelnau? I don't know. And I'm definitely going to say this next name incorrectly, so apologies if anyone is listening in France and I'm butchering this completely. But discovered by Georges Vacher de la Pouche in 1890. He discovered 3 bone fragments, a humerus, a tibia, which is your thigh bone.
A humerus what?
Yeah, a big joke, a big giant joke. A tibia, which is your thigh, isn't it? Is that right? I feel like that's.
I thought it was one of your arms, tibia and fibia.
Ah, that's it. Yes.
It's them
okay.
two.
I feel like there was a like a rhyme in science to remember these things, but I definitely didn't pay attention.
I can't remember what this one is. That just your arm bone?
Yeah, I guess so.
Tibia, fibia, femur.
Femur, that's it. I'm thinking of the femur, aren't I? And then the third one was a femoral midshaft.
Sounds a little blue.
Doesn't it? I don't want to talk about it. But he discovered these bones and dated them back as far back as the Neolithic period. Which is like, I don't know, Bronze Age.
All those old periods, you could say any name, and I'm just like, it's old. I couldn't tell you when and what order they were in and what happened in them.
Really old. Basically, really old.
Yeah.
If you want to check it out. But according to Georges de la Pouche, the fossils that he found, his reckoning was that it was definitely a human bone, and he managed to deduct that it definitely was human, and therefore his findings showed that it would have been the largest human to have ever existed. So he estimated.
Well, and without a doubt, they're saying it's human.
Yeah, from what I could tell, and I looked at a couple of sources, and they seemed to. I couldn't see anything that refuted this, but I'm sure listeners, I'm sure you will do. His judgment, so obviously this is 1890, so it's over like 100 and however many years ago, so we're going to have our methods are probably going to be a bit more accurate, but his reckoning was that this person would have been about 3.5 meters, so 11 foot.
No.
Doesn't sound right, does it? The problem was that, and I don't know if this is just because of the time, the problem is that his paper wasn't peer reviewed. So if you were to ask scientists or scholars today, they would say, if it's not been peer reviewed, you probably can't. You couldn't use it in an essay, basically.
I feel like he didn't add up something right. Like he didn't carry the one.
Yeah. Tis, what are you buying this 3.5 meter human, 11 foot tall?
Maybe a long time ago, but not.
But what, longer?
How?
Because that's 130 years.
Like a long time ago. Probably not then. No, I think things were really big once upon a time on Earth, right? But that was way before humans.
Well, dinosaurs were big.
Yeah.
There was like mushrooms were massive and trees.
Do you think at the time of dinosaurs and giant mushrooms, were there giant humans then?
I don't think humans were a thing then. I think it was...
No, they weren't.
Other animals.
But were they? Maybe we don't know about them.
I don't know.
Cockroaches.
Just like there were big dinosaurs, like bigger animals than we have now. Were there like big old humans walking around? No, we'd have found something.
I think it's something to do with the oxygen difference.
Or would the bones be...
There was more oxygen.
No, because you think we found dinosaur bones, and that was 65 million years ago at least, and older. So you'd have found skeletons, wouldn't you, by now?
How do you... I have a way that I always remember that it was 65 million years ago with dinosaurs, roughly.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, because it was on all the posters of film 65 million years in the making.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only way. And it's embarrassing because that would have only been at the time of T-Rex, I'm guessing. There would have been other dinosaurs that would have been like 100 million years ago. Surely.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
they pull dinosaurs from all different eras in those Jurassic Park films.
Yeah, it's a mess.
They're not just Jurassic. False advertising.
No.
Cretaceous Park.
Fun. Cretaceous doesn't have the same ring to it, does it?
No.
I'm just going to read out Lapouche's findings. So he reported, I think it unnecessary to note that these bones are undeniably human, despite their enormous size. The first is the middle part of the shaft of the femur, 14 centimetres length, almost cylindrical in shape, and the circumference of the bone is 16 centimetres. So I think it's the circumference is quite big.
Yeah.
That's pretty big. It's not necessarily the length. It feels like the width, the circumference is pretty big. The second piece is the middle and upper part of the shaft of a tibia, and the circumference is 13 centimetres. The length is 26 centimetres. The volumes of the bones were more than double the normal pieces to which they correspond. Judging by the usual intervals of anatomical points, they also involve lengths almost double. The subject would have been likely a size 3 meters 50. So has he basically just doubled the size of a normal man? And
do you know what? Like, I don't know why. Something about this, I'm like, the others, I'm like, tripe, basically. Codswallop. This one, I don't know why. I'm just like, maybe he did find this weird thing.
Yeah.
Because why would he lie?
Yeah, he's got no reason to lie, has he? And actually, if he lies and gets it really wrong, and people think he's crazy, then he's going to lose money. He's going to lose funding.
If it was one bone, I'd be like, crackpot. But he's got multiple bones there that all like correspond with each other. That all of different parts of the body. I don't know. That's a weird one.
It is weird, isn't it? So, although his paper wasn't peer reviewed, the bones were taken to the University of Montpellier. And studied there, and other scientists. So they studied it for 4 years, from what I can tell. So he discovered them in 1890, and up until 1894, they concluded that the bones were abnormal and would have been from something that grew morbidly, and they also concluded that they, as far as they could tell, they were human bone as well. So it wasn't like a big elephant or a big chimp or something like that.
Weird. Big chimp.
Big chimp. I don't know. But they do say...
Hail to the chimp.
But they
of all the animals.
I don't know why I said chimp. I don't know. Just a big caveman bone or something. Big dinosaur bone.
Of all the animals, you picked something that's smaller than us.
I think I meant
to... just as amazing if it was a chimp that was that
it would have
big.
been. I think they belong to a bone of a big lemur.
When they say they investigate it for 4 years, when you listen to these sorts of things, what does that mean? Like, for 4 years, every day they're like, "Oh, you got to work, darling. Yeah, I'm just going to go and look at that bone again." For 4 years.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can investigate in 4 years on a bone.
I don't know. I think it's maybe that they were picked up by other scientists.
Right. It wasn't just like this group of scientists went in every day and looked at this bone for 4 years.
No, I just think it's like, how annoying would that be, though? If you were the guy that did it, you'd be like, "Hey, Mike, can you just can you look at these bones? Because to me, they look like human bones, but they're massive. And he's like, yeah. And then he like puts it in his like to-do folder. Jeez. Yeah, it's like, just to understand, like, maybe they would have just been put on the pile of other things to do, and these other scientists didn't really just get round to doing it.
Put on the bunch of his massive bones. Like, what's that underneath my paperwork? Oh, yeah, they're bloody bones. Forgot about them.
I like this paperweight. This is really helpful.
Someone's using it as a massive bookmark.
I forgot to do that thing for George's. Damn.
Oh, the bones. Fucking slab. It's like as big as that like rib joint they put on Fred Flintstone's car.
Yeah. Second Flintstones reference of the night. I don't think we've ever referenced the Flintstones, and all of a sudden we've done two.
I haven't thought about the Flintstones for about 10 years.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, but damn it, don't mention them.
The one thing that I thought was worth mentioning, though, is that their studies, they kind of reduced his... So he said it was of a man 3.5 meters, which is about 12 foot. They reduced that to about 10.
Right.
So
that's still massive.
It's still massive, but they've looked at it and gone, maybe not 12, maybe a little bit short than that. But 10 foot is crazy.
It's still unbelievable, and that I actually do find this case kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's the one out of the three that I've going to mention, so I'm going to go on to the last one in just a moment, that I found most interesting. Finally, we come on to...
You've kind of just let it slip that this one isn't as interesting. Of the three, that one was the best. But anyway, let's do another. Keep
listening. No, actually, no, this is backtracking now, though. This one is good.
Okay, all right.
This is a group. This is about the Psittaca. Definitely said that wrong. So it's SI-TE-CAH. So Psittaca or Psittaca. So this is about a tribe from North America whose legendary mummified remains, they were allegedly found in this cave under 4 feet of guano by some miners in 1911.
4 feet?
Yeah, they dug through a lot of... Guano is bat poo, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think so. That's what they told me in Ace Ventura when nature calls.
That's what Ace Ventura told me. So he must be right. But I'm just gonna fly through the story quickly here.
There once was a ship that put
Not this bit.
I really thought this was it.
Oh my god! I thought it was a sea shanty about giants.
I thought you were gonna tell us through song.
Yeah, no, sorry to disappoint you. No. So we're gonna let the team at iTeam News tell us a bit more.
For more than a century, a story has persisted about the skeletons of giants being found in Lovelock Cave in northern Nevada.
And for many years, human remains were put on display in museums here and elsewhere, but that changed. Most of the bones and skulls that were once considered to be historical artifacts have been returned to tribes for burial.
If oversized bones from the so-called Lovelock giants ever existed, they are no longer available to the public. But their story behind the legend still remains.
The iTeam's George Knapp has more.
Slicing through the bone-dry Humboldt Sink on a long dirt road, it's hard to imagine that all of this was once underwater. Remnants of a vast, ancient lake can still be seen in the distance. For generations of first Americans, this was a lush paradise of tules, fish, and waterfowl. Humans have climbed this same narrow path up the jagged mountain for more than 4,000 years. That's how long indigenous peoples lived in and around the Lovelock Cave. The roof of the cave is still coated with soot from countless campfires lit by ancestors of the Paiutes. According to tribal lore, a race of red-headed giants made its last stand in this cave.
Among the Paiutes, would most of them say that the giants were real?
All that I've talked to say yes. I've never heard anybody say no.
Devoy Monk has spent all of her 80-plus years in Lovelock. Her family's home today houses a small museum, jam-packed with artifacts and depictions documenting centuries of native culture and pioneer life. Monk has earned the trust of Paiute elders who say the stories are true, that the red-headed interlopers not only killed but ate their ancestors.
My Indian friends tell me they were cannibals, that they set traps, and we have a paper in the other room, that they dug holes in the pathways and where they walked, and then covered them, and then the Indians would fall in, and they said the best part to eat were the thighs.
On internet sites and alien-themed TV shows, the gruesome legend has blossomed, but it's hardly new. Versions have been told and retold in magazines, even scholarly journals, for more than a century. Famed Nevadan Sarah Winnemucca first wrote in her acclaimed book that the Paiutes waged a 3-year war against a tribe of red-headed cannibals before trapping and then killing the last of them inside Lovelock Cave. Her book doesn't mention giants, and mainstream archaeologists have vigorously rejected the entire story, to the point that the State Museum in Winnemucca admonishes visitors at its front entrance that the red-headed giants are a myth.
There have been skeletons pulled out in the Reed collection, and they found some in there, I believe, that were up to 6'2". So when you think about that, even back then, 6 foot was a very tall individual.
Bill Snodgrass, the curator of the Marsden House Museum in Lovelock, thinks there is reasonable basis for parts of the story. In the early 20th century, guano miners began excavating the Lovelock Cave and uncovered thousands of artifacts, along with mummified remains, including a few specimens much taller than the typical Paiute of centuries past. Later, scientific excavations found troves of native antiquities, along with bones. Some human remains were destroyed. Others were sent to museums for display. A few, Snodgrass says, were consumed in bizarre initiation rituals. He adds there is evidence, including basketry, of an unknown culture that lived near the cave. Records show some of them had red hair.
I just wanted to get the bone to show you guys. Okay, because I feel like, particularly if you look at the one on the other side, this side.
Yeah.
That, can you see there's like quite a big, there's a deep brow at the top of the skull.
Yeah, like mine.
There's a big Bobby skull. Anyway, so that clip goes on. I think it's worth mentioning at this point that although 6'2" doesn't sound, it is quite tall, but it's a relatively like average. Well, it's probably more than average, but it's not unusual.
People will get taller though, aren't they? They're taller now.
Yeah, you can get taller than that, and so that's not abnormal to find someone that tall. But I think the point is that at the time that would have been pretty big. That would have been much bigger than your average tribesperson. So the Paiutes talk about the I've just found they break down how to pronounce them. So it's actually the Soduka. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't too far off. But they were this tribe of red-headed giants. They called them giants, I guess, because they were much taller. And but yeah, the legend has it that they were cannibals. That they they had red skin and red hair, like a red head. And that they struggled for years. They were at war with the Paiutes, just the local tribes people, and they've got these bones as well. But there is a bit of a dispute about this one. Some modern scholars, in fact, most modern scholars that have looked at the bones that they found. So they said in the video these miners found hundreds of artifacts and bones and things like that. And the locals in that area would say, oh yeah, that's the Sideka. these red-headed giants, the cannibalistic, massive, but scholars today would dispute that and say that they resemble fossiled remains of Meganthropus, which is like a humanoid, like an early man humanoid type person, rather than these.
What? And they were just like the last vestiges of that like type of man.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's weird.
And so I think it would have been like Neanderthal man type thing, large jaw and the big kind of brow.
Yeah.
And so there seems to be quite a lot of scholars that kind of point the finger and say whether they're kind of using this story as like a tourist ploy because it brings tourism into the area. And you think, well, so what? Let them have it. I don't know. It's no harm done. But the History Channel actually did an episode about this, and there was a whole feature on where are the bones? Like, where have these bones gone? There's some big conspiracy that the government are hiding the bones so we don't find out about it. But as was said in the video, it's simply kind of out of respect to the tribes people, you return these bones so that they can bury them properly in a respectful way, rather than just keeping them in a museum for people to gawk at. But what do you guys think of the Sardica?
Maybe.
Yeah. Much of a muchness.
Yeah.
Possible.
It feels like one of them things where, like, I could be like, well, maybe. Or also, like, it's just one of those things that, like, any like race of people have, like, their myths and stories, and they say, yeah, that's what it used to be. This used to happen.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, exactly. I'm not too sure how much stock there is in that one, which is why I would say the Giant of Castanau is probably my favourite one. Seems to be something in that.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm afraid we're going to have to come back to reality with the Big Bang. There's obviously not enough evidence, as in there is no evidence that there were ever giant beings that were towering above people at like 15 to 20 foot, as some legends claim. So, sorry about that.
Well, it's a bit like the Dragons episode where it's like, these are myths and these are why different people in the world think them. These are different stories, but there's nothing that suggests they were ever real.
No, and I don't think any of us were claiming that at the start.
I mean, to be fair, we went and spent like time in Transylvania over something that was basically a fictional character. So,
yeah, exactly. But that's all I have on giants.
Well, I'm not convinced.
No. Are you sure?
No, not quite. I still can't get over how tall that world's tallest man was, though.
Yeah, 9 foot is almost 9 foot. Like, not even an inch shy of 9 foot.
It's too big, isn't it?
It's probably too tall. He couldn't fit on my sofa.
Well, thanks, Beefy.
Yeah, man.
You're welcome.
And shall I do the outro stuff? Sorry, I'm just trying to find my notes. That's why I'm so delayed. I've got my notes for the outro stuff.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, that is it. I am done.
Okay, thanks very much, Beefy. And listeners, we have Listener of the Week. This time I'm going to give it to... so on the email, the name is Johnny. This was a guy who is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So, a while ago, we've had a few emails now from people. So a long time ago, I can't remember what episode it was, we talked about Mormons and things like that. And some people took offense to the stuff I said. I think it was me in particular, but I can't remember exactly. Probably was. So
I think
anyway,
I said some stuff too.
So this guy, Johnny, he emailed me fairly recently and sort of schooled me on some of the stuff I said. With no offense intended from him and none taken from me at all. But it was interesting, and it was a long, interesting email. And Johnny, just to reiterate, we never meant any offence on whatever we said on that old episode, and don't listen to any nonsense we say. And we'd appreciate that you still listen anyway.
Absolutely.
So, Listener of the Week.
Listener of the Week.
And then Pet of the Week. This is Cece. the Beagle.
Oh.
Which is Cecilia Garman's dog. She sent that a while ago. I've had that in the back burner, and I completely forgot I had that dog. I have a folder on my phone of dog pictures that listeners send. I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't done that dog yet. So thanks, Cecilia, for sending your Beagle in. Now, listeners, if you want to get in contact like Johnny did, just to say anything, or send pictures of your pets like Cecilia did, or suggest episodes, or say hi, or do anything you like, that's the email to directly do that is unexplainableuk@mail.com. You can also go to weirdtalesandtheunexplainable.com, where you can contact through there. You can find links to all the places you can buy t-shirts, you can support us monetarily, you can find our social media pages, all that stuff. I haven't mentioned it for a while, but there's also bonus podcasts. Like we did a few bonus episodes of Weird News. We did, me and Beef did a mini 2-part pod called Unwatchable about bad horror films, which is really fun. So you can find that. That's bobshoy.bandcamp.com. That's my name, BOBSHOY.bandcamp.com. You can also go to bobshoy.com, where you can find out about my other podcasts that I work on. This is part of the Bob Shoy Podcast Network. And finally, you can support my time editing and researching for those various podcasts at patreon.com/bobshoy. Finally, go leave us a rating review on iTunes. That hasn't been done for a while. Everyone's slacking off.
Yeah, come on, get to it.
So we're nearly at the end of this run of episodes. I have an episode that I'll be recording with Rick shortly for a Revisited, which will be the next one. And then we'll be having a month off as usual and be back in... When are we back? May.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have April off. We'll be back in May.
Wow. Feels like an age away now.
I know. I was like, that can't be right, May. But yeah, I suppose it is.
It is May.
So, yeah, we'll see you then. And thanks for listening, everyone.
We're done. Yeah, thanks, everyone. Lots of love.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. See you soon.
And have you got like a giant pun or anything?
Huh?
Have you got like a giant pun or anything?
I don't know. I don't think I
it's
could
really
think
hard.
of
It
one.
feels like it should be really like a rich vein for puns, but
yeah, there's not, is there?
No.
Don't know. Anyway, night. I'm off for some snoo. I don't know.
Right. See you later, everyone. Club off.
See you. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.
See ya. See you soon.
A waste popper! It's a sign of happiness! It is jollifying music! When you drink a bottle of fabulous rum-guddle bubbles and giggles, it's part of the plan. It's yummy and drummy and tickles your tummy and soon you's off with a whiz-boppy bang. As certain as eggs is a couple of kegs is a frog-guddle makes you feel grand. The chuckling and gurgling, it seems so absurdly why people don't whiz-bop all over the land. Now, taste it.
It's fantastic.
It is only the beginning. Here comes, Whiz Popper!
I hope you're not going to be rude.
I can't remember her name. The name of the receptionist in Monsters Inc., the one who's like the undercover agent.
Oh, yeah, Roz.
That's it.
I'm watching, Wazowski. Always watching.
I hope you're recording.
I am.
I'll leave the judging of that one up to the listeners. So I get called Daniel Radcliffe a lot in my life.
Really?
And happened today. Yeah, I get it all the time. To the point where earlier this week someone did it and they literally wanted to say